Okay, so today I was getting ready for this and I was getting nervous. And I thought, last time I did this it went well and I wondered why. And it was because I had a few drinks, I think. And so I thought maybe that would be a good formula. And I'm trying to balance it, how much wine I can have and still be able to tell this story. So we'll see what happens here. But anyway, good evening everybody. It's good to see you. As you can see, I'm in a cast. Anybody who knows me knows that this is a reoccurring thing in my life and has been since February 16th, 2011, when I collided with a taxi. And it's been a long road of recovery here for me. It'll probably continue on, unfortunately, for another year. But what I'd like to say is that throughout this process, what I've discovered is that heroes live amongst us. They're everyday heroes. They're people that, when you're in trouble, are there to listen, take the phone call, help you out, offer you advice, offer you the connections that they have, and whatever they can do to help, or they just say, hello, how are you doing? Or the last time this happened to me, where it looked like I had been healed and then my arm broke. I felt like I was going to my funeral, actually. Everybody was more upset than me. I was getting ready for another go-round, and then everybody's reaction was of real concern. But these are the heroes for me, and there are many in this room, and I'd like to take a moment to thank you very much. So anyway, as it happened, my third surgery was March 2nd of just a couple months ago. And I woke up at 2 in the morning in ICU, feeling so good and pain-free for the first time, reasonably speaking, for the first time since February 16th of 2011. And I was ready to get to work. I couldn't wait for them to let me out of the ICU so I could start work. And in fact, I was teaching online at that point, so within 12 hours I was out of ICU and I started working. And I felt so good, I planned a trip. I decided I would go to Shodoshima and see the Setouchi International Art Festival with a friend of mine. We were really excited, all ready to go. And anyway, we started this process of planning to go there. And it was for the third week in March, I think, so just about 2 or 3 weeks after this. So what happened was, 2 days before I went, I got a call from the talent agency I work for. They wanted me to do some announcements. I had 2 jobs in Okayama on the same day I was coming into Okayama. And then I could leave there and go to Shodoshima from Osaka port. And it was perfect. I thought it was great. I was really excited. And I started that process of getting ready, preparing to give the speeches or the announcements, all this stuff. I was up late. I didn't have much rest. And then as I packed my bags, and actually I ran into Ken, right? Ken, a few days before. And I was talking about I hadn't used my camera, because I love taking pictures, since the accident. And he suggested a monopod to use with my good camera. And I thought, perfect. So I packed the camera, packed everything. I was very careful about not using this arm, like the doctor said. And as I went to pull this heavy suitcase and this camera equipment along, I realized I was having trouble and had probably bit off too much more than I could chew before, so soon after surgery. So I had a lot of struggles trying to get down there. Fortunately, the MK taxi men, they're pretty helpful. So they got the equipment and everything in the car. They took it out, they put it just the way I needed it so I could just pull it all with my left hand. I got on the Shinkansen, everything's going okay, but I couldn't lift it up and nobody was there to help me. Or people I asked didn't quite understand or didn't want to be bothered. I don't know what happened, but I ended up leaving the camera equipment in the back behind one of the seats, and I was really nervous about that. Still, I made it down to Okayama. I did my jobs. I got a taxi. I ended up at the port. And as I was walking to the ferry, the darn camera bag slipped, and I couldn't pull it up. And some gentleman was next to me, and he's the one who became my hero. But he was an unlikely hero at first because he didn't seem to want to help. As he grabbed the bag, he went, "Oh, boy." And then he put it down, and then he kept walking and said, "So, gomendasai." And I said, "Oh, no." And I might have even said, "Oh, no." When he turned around, he came back, and then something switched in his head, and he decided that I was his project for the rest of the evening. And it was beautiful. He had things in his hand, and yet he carried this this camera equipment and the suitcase up the stairs of that ferry, everything, and all I had to do was just carry the few books I had in my hand. I sat down, was relieved because I just didn't feel well. I clearly had bitten off more than I could chew. I just had no idea why I wasn't bouncing back from this and going to have a good time and all of that stuff. I was so discouraged, but I was thankful for this man. Then it was time to get off the ferry, and as I pulled the equipment and the bag off out the door, there he was waiting for me, that lovely man who took it all, took it downstairs, and was so enthusiastic about it. He's saying, "My wife is coming, my wife is coming. Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to the hotel." It was the New Bay Resort Hotel. And he said, "Oh, that's so far away." But I had said the bus stop, so I thought he was saying the bus stop was really far away. Well, I knew if the bus stop was really far away, I wasn't going to be able to get there. So I did need his help. But he said, "Look, you can come in my car." I said, "Okay, thank you very much." Then what happened was he suddenly got nervous. And he's saying in Japanese that his car is very small. And I'm thinking, how small can the car be? And how could he offer it if it's really that small, right? And I didn't know what to do. Do I now go to try to find this bus stop that's probably 1,000,000 miles away and I can't find it at 8 o'clock at night? Or do I follow him? Well, he kept saying, "Come on," so I kept coming on, wondering what to do. And as I got there, I realized what the problem was. So it turns out that this vehicle was originally made in Japan in the early 1980s. And it has been exported for sales to several different countries, including the United Kingdom, France, Venezuela, the United States, Australia, and South Africa. Since it holds the dubious distinction of being the only car ever offered by both Chevrolet and Ford, you might think that the Chariot that awaited me would not have caused my knight in shining armor so much anxiety, but it did. That is, at least, until you learn that when this vehicle was imported to South Africa, in reference to its size, it was given the name half-loaf. From the South African's perspective, and relatively speaking, the vehicle was the size of a half a loaf of bread. If you visit Cape Town today, you'll be able to spot these vehicles by their bright yellow color and the green artwork that adorns them. Additionally, the South Africans have chopped off the rear end of the vehicle, which begs the question, do they now refer to this vehicle as a quarter loaf? Again, if you're visiting Cape Town, you can actually hail one of them as you would a taxi in New York City. Unlike a New York taxi, however, you must quickly hop on the back of one, pay the driver a rand or two, and jump off your vehicle as you reach your destination. Given my health condition, it was a good thing that I had landed at the Tonosho port in Shodoshima in March, rather than the port of Cape Town in South Africa. As you might suspect, after getting off the ferry in Tonosho port, the chariot that my knight in shining armor and I had approached was not painted bright yellow, nor was there green artwork on it. Rather, it was an immaculate basic white Suzuki Carry, or what is commonly called a K-car in Japan. And even though my knight in shining armor's wife was not expecting company, in true Japanese fashion, this K-car had a perfectly hung blue tarp that surrounded its flatbed to keep the elements out. And the flatbed was filled with flat cardboard boxes that were perfectly laid out as well. I don't think I've ever seen boxes so neatly stacked and ordered in my life. It was a good thing that those boxes were there, however, because the K-car has a two-seater cab, and one of us was going to be needing some cushioning. I tried to insist that I would get in the back of the truck, but this kind gentleman refused. And in his three-piece suit, he gallantly got into the back of the vehicle and endured the indignity of having to sit on the cardboard boxes. It was a 45-minute ride across the island of Shodoshima to the hotel. It was a cold night, and while I stayed warm in the front, I worried about him because he didn't have a coat. I made small talk with his wife, who felt certain that he would be fine without his coat, I told her how awfully kind and generous her husband was to me, but she said, not to his wife. Eventually we got to the hotel. This man jumped out of the back of the car and he yelled, Okyak-san, making sure that I would be taken care of. So they came and they took care of me. And these people, I tried to get, along the way to the hotel, I started thinking about the photographs, that I was going to take. I tried to learn about this guy's hobby. He loved yachts, and I wondered, could I take a picture of a yacht and then do something really nice with it and mail it to him to thank him? How could I thank this guy? But when I got out of the car and he made sure I got help, he wouldn't give me a sumeishi. He knew exactly, or seemed to sense what I wanted to do, and he was just fine to do nothing at all except have a nice trip. To say have a nice trip, a nice stay in Shodoshima. So I thanked them very much, bowed, told them how lovely everything was, that I couldn't believe it. Went into the hotel, started signing in. They took off, and then 5 minutes later, his wife came to the desk and said, we wondered if you got it wrong. We wanted to make sure you're in the same the hotel you should be in. I mean, that's how lovely that was, right? So there are lots of times where somebody comes in and, you know, they're your hero. And you don't expect it, and you want to pay it back to them. But I realized that I couldn't do that. That was frustrating for me. But I'm here tonight to share this story with you, with the hopes that somehow you can pay that forward. Thank you.